So we're given four equations here, and these are absolute value equations. And we're asked to choose the number of solutions each equation has. So with absolute value, you can have two solutions, you can have one solution, or you can have no solution. All right, so we got to figure this out. And the way we're going to do that is by solving these. Now, when we solve these, the first thing we want to do is isolate the absolute value symbols. So I'm just going to solve each of these step by step here. So we'll start with the first one. So I've got 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 plus 4 equals 0. I don't know why my handwriting's so bad today. So I want to isolate the absolute value piece. So I'm trying to get this part by itself. So I need to get rid of the 2 and the 4. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides of this and then divide by 2. So I'll put a line down here because a lot of teachers do that to remind you to do same operations on both sides of the line. So I have minus 4, minus 4. So that cancels out. That leaves me with 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 equals negative 4. Then I said we were going to divide by 2. So I divide both sides of the equation by 2. That cancels out. Now I've isolated the x minus 3 here. And I have negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. So I'm going to stop here. Normally, in an absolute value equation, at this point, you would break it into two equations, which you'll see that on another one coming up. But right now, it says the absolute value is equal to negative 2. Well, absolute value can never be equal to a negative. Absolute value always gives you a positive. So this is an example of one that's no solution. So if you end up with the absolute value by itself over here, and then it's equal to a negative, that's no solution. So that one goes to no solution. So now let's look at the next one. So we'll go to the next one here. I'll do it in a different color. So we have 3 minus the absolute value of a plus 2 equals 0. So again, I'm going to isolate the absolute value. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3 from both sides. So minus 3 minus 3. So this will go away. Now I have negative absolute value of a plus 2. So you have to be careful here. That minus sign didn't just disappear. It's still there. And then on this side, I have negative 3. And so a lot of times students would stop here and say it's no solution because it's equal to a negative. Well, I'm not done. I have to get rid of this negative on the left side. And so really there's a 1 here that we don't write. So that negative sign really means negative 1 times that. So to get rid of that negative sign, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. So now I have the absolute value of a plus 2 equals positive 3. And so now you can see that this does have solutions. Sorry. So the negative became a positive here. And so then to solve this, what you do is you split this into a plus 2 equals 3 and a plus 2 equals negative 3, because absolute value could be 3 or negative 3 and still come out in a positive. And then you just solve these. So minus 2 minus 2. And so you get a equals 1. And then this one, I do the same thing. Minus 2 minus 2. That's a negative 3 there. Sorry, that didn't turn out very well. And so then I end up with a equals negative 5. So you can see here, I got two solutions. So B, or the second one here, goes to two solutions. All right, so let's look at the next one. So if you're thinking this question takes a lot of work, it kind of does. You're right. So I have 4 times the absolute value of n plus 1 equals 0. I'm trying to isolate the absolute value again, so I need to get rid of the 4. That's 4 times that, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So divide by 4, that cancels out, and I have the absolute value of n plus 1 is equal to 0. Okay, so on the last problem, remember this one here, I broke it into two parts, equals 3 and equals negative 3. Here, there's no such thing as positive or negative 0, so you can't break this apart. So the only thing you can do is solve this problem. So you would just solve n plus 1 equals 0. You would subtract 1 from both sides, and then that would go away, and you'd get n equals negative 1. And so you'd get one solution. So when the absolute value is equal to 0, you're going to just get one solution. All right, we got one more. So I'll do this one in black. So I have negative 2 times the absolute value of r minus 4 plus 3 equals 0. So this one's kind of similar to the first one we did in red up there. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, again, isolating the absolute value. So minus 3. So now I have negative 2 times the absolute value of r minus 4 equals negative 3. I divide both sides by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. So that cancels out, and I have the absolute value of r minus 4 is equal to positive 3 halves. And then this one I would split into two equations, just like I did on the light blue one over here where I split that up. So I would split this into two equations and solve them, and I'd get two solutions. Okay, so the times when you get one solution is when the absolute value is equal to 0. If it's equal to a negative, that's when you get no solution. And otherwise, you're going to get two solutions. And I'm not going to go ahead and solve that because we don't need the solution. We just need to know how many solutions there were. And there were 2. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you out. Keep working hard, and you will master the math.